Welcome to this GiftWorks quick video. My name is Jonathan Lehman. This video is part of a video series in understanding how GiftWorks can be configured to work with QuickBooks. This particular video focuses on posting transactions to QuickBooks. It's an overview of that process, and I'll be showing the flow of information between GiftWorks and QuickBooks. I'll explain the posting options and show how customers and journal entries are updated to QuickBooks. Now, this is not an overview of accounting principles. Our expectation is that you would have that knowledge, or if not, that you would consult an accounting advisor. Let's begin by signing into GiftWorks. Prior to what I'm going to show you in this video, our expectation is that you would have gone to the accounting area and you would have taken the option to configure GiftWorks to work with QuickBooks. If you're not familiar with that and how to connect GiftWorks and QuickBooks, we'd recommend you watch that video, which is a separate video as part of this video series. Also, prior to this video, we expect that you would have an understanding of the transaction register. In this particular example, I've entered a donation and a pledge. I'm going to show you how to post those. So it's created transactions in the transaction register. If you don't have an understanding of the transaction register, we would also recommend that you watch that video on understanding the transaction register, another video that's part of this video series. Let's begin. I'm going to go over to the donors area. I'm going to show you a couple donors and their donations or pledges. Go into Jonathan Lehman. Go to his donations. He has a gift in GiftWorks. Notice it has a donation date of 9/18, and it was to two separate. It's a split fund gift. It was to the building fund and the technology fund. $350 to the building fund and $150 to the technology fund. And I'll show you Acme. Acme has a pledge. Pledge with 3 payments, approximately $333 for each, and this one payment was paid with a date of 9/17. I can show you that, and that was to the building fund. One of the things I want to show you, if you go over to the transaction register in the settings area, you'll notice that these transactions were actually entered on the 22nd. So the donations and pledges were actually entered into GiftWorks on the 22nd of September, but they were actually, the donation date for the first one was the 18th, and the pledge date, donation date for the Acme pledge and pledge payment was on 9/17. So we're going to have to get started to post transactions. I'm going to go to the settings area. One of the first things that would always be good to do before you post would be to back up both your GiftWorks database and to back up your QuickBooks company file. So you can back up your GiftWorks database by going to the settings area, database and maintenance, and clicking on back up your database. Of course, we would recommend you do this to an off-site location. We did this backup, and for backing up your QuickBooks company file, we recommend that you consult their documentation. Once you've done that backup, again, in the settings area, under the accounting area, you could either click post donations here, or you could click on accounting and click on post transactions to QuickBooks or file. When you take that option, you're presented with a screen that shows you several things. This bottom section here shows you a history of previous posts that you've done. It shows you the date range that you entered, how many transactions were included. It gives you some information about the type of options that you took, the summary options, which I'll be showing what that means when we actually do a post, and who did the post and when it was done. So it gives you a little bit of a history there. And you actually would have the option, if you need to repost any of those, you can actually do that by clicking on one and saving the previous post. In this case, we're going to do a new post. We're going to put in the date of 9/22. I didn't select that right. And we're going to click post. You're presented with a dialog that gives you some options. I'm going to explain those options. You have 2 main sections. You have transaction options and summary options. The transaction options basically are asking you to specify what types of transactions you want to include. So is your accounting done on an accrual basis where you include donations and pledges, or is it done on a cash basis where you only or would be posting donations? Accrual basis, when you're including pledges, would mean that you would include expected pledge payments. So you would realize the income in your QuickBooks accounting when the person makes the pledge. cash basis, you would only post those once you actually receive the money. So you can see if I click accrual basis and click next, you would see here that for Jonathan Lehman, you can see the transactions. It includes that one gift that had the split fund gift, and it also includes the pledge for Acme, and includes the expected payments here, and also the received one. So here's the receivable, pledge receivable account. If I would go back and I would change that to cash option, I'll reset the list, and you'll see I have the gift for Jonathan Lehman, but I also have just the received payment for Acme, not the expected pledge payments. So that's the difference with the first option. Under the summary options, you have two primary methods. You can either post transaction detail, or you can post summary information for each account. You have some options within each of those. When you post transaction detail, basically what you're choosing is that it's important to you to get individual detail of those transactions. It gives you a better way of tracking down and seeing within QuickBooks the journal entries that it creates, and seeing them actually as they relate back to donations or pledge payments within GiftWorks. It actually also would take the donors that are being posted, that are part of the transactions that are being posted, and it would actually add or update customers in QuickBooks. So you would want to take that option if you are interested in that individual information. Post summary information, you would use that option if you're primarily interested in just making sure that the account balances are updated correctly within QuickBooks. You're not really concerned about tracking individual customers within QuickBooks, at least not from posting from GiftWorks. And you're also not that concerned about being able to track back individual journal entries to donations or pledges within GiftWorks. So also within each of these options, you have the option to post by transaction date or donation or pledge date. The transaction date is the date that the transactions were entered within GiftWorks. The donation or pledge date is if it's a donation, it would be the donation date, and obviously if it's a pledge, it would be the pledge date. So it's whether or not you want to post the date on the journal entry should be the transaction date or the donation or pledge date. And you have those options within the summary option also. You have different choices for summarizing. You can summarize all the transactions to the current date, so it wouldn't apply there. But if you're summarizing them all by date, you can either choose the transaction date or the donation or pledge date. Or if you're summarizing them all by month, you can summarize them by the transaction month or the donation or pledge month. And we'll go into more detail about how that summary option works with an example. I'm going to start by doing a simple. Again, I think a lot of our customers would use the accrual basis and simply post by transaction date. Whatever choices you make here would be the choices that will default from this point forward. Our recommendation is that you would pick a method for posting, and that you would stick with that method. That's why we default those options going forward. So let's take this option. I'll reset the transaction list. You can see the transactions here. When I click next, it's actually going to several things that the post process goes through. It will validate the accounts and the classes that are part of these transactions to make sure they all are still valid within GiftWorks and the existing QuickBooks. It will then try to post the donors, either adding or updating them to QuickBooks. It will try to match to existing customers in QuickBooks if it can. There's another video explaining that in more detail. And then it will actually post these transactions as journal entries. And individual and gift journal entries, gift transactions are actually summarized per gift as a journal entry. So I will click Next. And I have a choice of QuickBooks or CSV file. I'm going to pick QuickBooks, and I'll click Next. It's going to connect to QuickBooks, validating the accounts and classes, posting the donors, posting the transactions, and just like that, it's done. And if you can see, if we go over to QuickBooks, you'll see that I have an Acme Inc. and I have a Jonathan Lehman. Within Jonathan Lehman, I have the journal entry, which shows that split fund gift. And if you go into Acme, you can see I have the journal entries that reflect all the pledge receivable activity, the reversal of that, and then the actual received payment for that one gift. And you can see here that it also shows me a record of the post that I just did, which was 7 transactions. It was detailed by transaction date. So I'm going to take these same transactions, and I brought up the dialog, and I'm actually post the same transactions in summary fashion. So I'm going to choose post the summary information. I'm going to summarize them all by the current date. And basically, it's going to not post the individual donors, so it's going to post them to a generic donor called GiftWorks. and it's going to summarize all those accounts and all the amounts for those transactions into one journal entry. So you can see I click Next. I get the same set of transactions. I select them. I pick QuickBooks. Go through and I post, finish, and you see the difference is this case. I posted them all under an account or a customer called GiftWorks, and I have one journal entry that summarizes everything. So you can see it has summarized all those accounts and the amounts into one journal entry. You can see also that it gives us a record of that post and the choices that we made. We hope this video has been helpful in understanding how transactions are posted, and we recommend that you watch the other videos as part of this video series.